have you learned? I was programmed to beat you. Same mistakes. I was programmed to beat you.
And Sundays, but here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Hello, and welcome to FRLT Tier 1 here on a Tuesday night, and it is time to get racing. We've actually already gotten into qualifying. Qualifying is about to start in the next few seconds, and for this race, it is time for round 5. We've been to Belgium, we've been to Mexico, we have been to Imola and Kota, and this week we now come to Austria, and then of course next week Abu Dhabi before we have our first break week of the season. Now, let's go through our little track map that we have for here tonight. 4.318 kilometers, 2.683 miles, 10 turns, 3 DRS zones, all back-to-back, down the pit straight, second straight, and down the back straight, ultimately. And that is pretty much the track. Some of the most difficult corners being the final two, turn 1 and the hairpin up in turn 3, of course. Championship-wise, AMS continue to lead the championship, currently on 107 points, 34 points ahead of ABE. Top 3 did not change. The top 6 didn't actually change last race. 12 Esports stays in 7th. ARO had a good points finish on the podium, finished getting up to 8th in the constructors. MAR also made their way up into 9th. DLF P1 also scored their first points of the season. So we're here for the rain at the track of the Red Bull Ring It is raining, which is interesting to see for qualifying. Of course, it's going to shake things up. Everybody will be on the intermediate tyres. So it's definitely going to be something interesting to look at here. First driver out on track is actually TIR Paulus. We've only got 18 drivers tonight, so we are 2 drivers short. One driver sadly could not make it, and one team did only submitted a 1-driver lineup. They are 12 esports, and they are having a qualifying ban for their one and only driver tonight. They will also suffer a qualifying ban for next week for one of their drivers at the same time. Now, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what's going to happen here tonight. Usually, I am joined by Kotz. He's had to go off for a few minutes quickly. Sadly, quite poor timing to go off. But he has had to go, sadly. But he should be back. He shall be back very soon. So don't count him out that he is going to be here in the next few moments. You thought it was the start of the race. Fair enough, Charlie. It always does seem like that. But the first man going out on a lap is going to be TIR Paulus. Let's watch him on his lap as he heads down the pit straight. Quite a short pit straight it is. Can't really make any overtakes through here. Now, as we head towards turn 1, braking a bit early, of course. It is in the wet, so it's slightly different from usual. Car on the right-hand side. Got to move out of the way. Got to stay out the way of cars. Of course, no DRS down the second straight, using quite a bit of overtake to get that straight line speed as he heads up towards turn 3. Hard on the brakes, about 100 meters, braking a bit earlier. Getting the car turned in quite nicely there. TIR not having the best of races last time. Only 4 points scored altogether in their last race compared to Imola, where they scored a massive 25. But they're going to be hoping for some better luck this week. Same as ART with a double DNF last race as well. We had quite a few retirements ultimately last race. As you can see, Paulus making his way through now. He made his way through turn 4 and 5. Now into turn 6 and 7. Very nice there through 6 now into 7, quite fast. He's gone a little bit too deep, not getting the turn in that he wants. I suspect the race should be dry. The race will probably be dry, let's be honest. As now he heads towards the final 2 corners of turn 9 and turn 10. Usually these would be pretty much flat out. In the rain though, quite difficult and quite tricky corners to actually make your way around. But there goes Paulos making his way around. So far, not too bad. No big problems with the lap, but 1 minute 12.529 is the first lap set by a driver here tonight. We've got Rafi, who's on a lap. We've got Barbance. We've got Hanzo, who's coming to the line next, I do believe. Yes, he will. Rising Moon is retired from the session. Not sure why. As Hanzo goes P2. As he goes up to P2. And just behind his teammate by about half a tenth of a second here so far. We've got Rafi. He's coming up to the line next for DLFP1. Of course, they'll be happy. They took their first points of the season in Kota. They'll be hoping for some more points in this race. Yes, of course, they'll be hoping for a few more points than they've currently got this season as he goes P3 in slowest, 1 minute 13.0. Not a big lap time there for him. Hops is currently on... He isn't on an actual lap. I think we have got... Soy, the man who's now the first driver this season to have won 2 races. He's going to come across the line, but he's slowest of all, 1 minute 13.4. As we saw Barbance for ABE go to a 1 minute 11.211, far ahead, 1.3 seconds ahead of the rest of the grid, and 2.2 seconds ahead of everyone else. As you can see, ART Heiser goes into P2, slotting ahead of Paulos. Very good there for ART. Joseph Dunrod, I believe for TTRE, goes P2 and also into the 1 minute 11s, but still 6 tenths, 6.5, just over 6.5 tenths behind the fastest driver out on track at the moment. That was Barbance. Looking to the next driver, we actually have Hops, who's on a lap. Hops makes his return. I believe he did race once last season. He's in for CRE. They haven't... Welsh Jack hasn't come out on track yet, but he's out on track to set the first lap time for CRE here tonight. They also needed improvement in the championship. They need to score some bigger points. Only 1 point scored last race. As there goes Hops, P2. Just over 2 tenths off of provisional pole at the moment, but it's still not a bad lap time. Trappy goes P7, but not too far ahead of his, half a second ahead of his teammate, but his teammate didn't have a great lap either. He's going for another run. We've got Yuri, who's the next one on a lap. Let's see what Yuri can do. I hope everybody's having a great Tuesday evening, by the way. Please let me know whether you are or not. But I bet it'll be better with some of this qualifying action here in the rain in Austria. We've seen rain a few times. We saw it back in Imola, of course. I think the drivers are getting a bit sick of rain this season. They saw it back in Imola. But here tonight, they're seeing it here in Austria. And this time in qualifying, we haven't had, I don't believe, if my recollection is correct, we haven't had a wet qualifying this season, as Yuri goes P5, just slotting behind Joseph Dunrod. But good for ABE there. Very nice run from Yuri. P1 and P5 at the moment. Pretty decent. We saw Zeno. He went P3, by the way. Still 4/10 off of provisional pole as it stands. Trappy has gone for a slow run. I believe Sasoy's on a fast lap, actually, at the moment. Yes, he is. Let's ride on board with Sasoy. He's going to come up to the line. He's going to improve. It's fastest of all, actually, from Sasoy. 2,000ths. 2,000ths of a second faster than Barbance. But it's enough to be fastest. I think we just saw who did we just see go up the order? I think that was NM Earth, who just went up into P8. And that's a nice lap from him. Trappy's on another lap, improving 2/10 already in the first sector. Nobody else is on a lap except Trappy, I do believe. Paulos has just started his lap. NM Earth is going on a slow lap, same as Soy. So I think the latest is going to be Trappy. Sorry, he's improved by just over 2/10 in the first sector. Let's see what he's going to do when he ends out the second sector as he comes round half a second up. That's still only going to get him up one place at the moment. You know, this is still showing how close the grid can be, even in wet conditions that we've seen quite a few times this season. As now they head towards the final two corners. Can Trappy put in a good lap? He's got to put in a good lap here. AMS need another big round. They're really pulling ahead in the constructors at the moment. He slides all over the place off of the exit of the final corner. And up to the line he goes. And that's P5. A second final lap time. Definitely a mistake made in the final sector. Ooh. Ramon saying Barbance and Sasoy, part 3. Ooh, would be interesting to see. Definitely interesting to see. Maybe a bit of a Drivers' Championship battle piping up here in Austria. Trappy, though, P5. Paulos is next. He's up 0.6 of a second. He's going slow, though. I think he's not going to improve. Trying to find the next driver. It's Geekin. Geekin had a great race, of course, for AERO. He pulled in a podium, their first podium of the season, and their first big points haul, and their biggest points haul, actually, of the season. As now he's going to come up to the line. It's P4, ahead of Zeno, his teammate, and it's P4 and 5. AERO, their form returning as of late, especially in qualifying. Their form is definitely returning. I think we have Welsh Jack, who's coming up to the line next. He's got to put in a decent lap. His teammate went P3 with 11.4. What can Welsh Jack do? Up to the line. Is he going to beat that? No, he's not. But he will slot right in behind his teammate. 700ths further behind. Ultimately, P4. That's not too bad. If Cots, you were alive at all.
I am alive. I thought you were going to give me a dramatic intro.
You were late.
Anyway.
Why am I going to give you an intro if you're late?
True. But yeah, I have been sitting here watching for the last few minutes, and something also to note with the battle between Sasoy and Barbance is Barbance currently holds the record, the world record, as Gisela, and Barbance goes even faster than he was before.
Oh,
he dips into the 110s, and I'd be very surprised if I saw that lap beaten today. But Gisela, with a sudden burst up the order, I was not expecting that from the ART driver, but he momentarily took pole, but Barbance 0.6 down on Gisela, or up, depending on your perspective on it. But what a lap from Barbance. But anyway, as I was saying, he holds the world record at Austria.
I know, but 0.6 though. Wow. Wow. Hello, Timon. It's nice to see you return to the streams again. A likely person we see quite a lot. Hanzo, by the way, just went P2 and also into the 1 minute 10s. Hops! CRE hops out of nowhere, hopping into a 10.4 as well, and finding himself just over 46 thousandths off of provisional pole set by Barbance, and that's really close from the CRE driver. And it's the first time let's be honest, it's the first time in a while that we've seen CRE be massively competitive in qualifying. Last race, we didn't see it. In Imola, yes, they were competitive, but then the race let them down, especially when it came down to penalties. And the previous race in Mexico was the same problem for CRE there as well. They weren't hugely competitive in qualifying. But you see what I mean? Is that, this is something that CRE has needed for a little while, that, they needed this bit of a comeback. As I'm actually going to be watching Hops' teammate, Welsh Jack, come around the final corner now. And this is exactly what CRE needs. They need their drivers up there and really close. As Welsh Jack goes P3! Here, wow! 800 splitting the top 3 at the moment. And CRE putting on a show for the rest of the grid at the moment.
This is ridiculous. The lap times are tumbling here. I was expecting the times to be around, after the banker laps, I was expecting a good pole time to be around a 1:11.3, 1:11.4. At the moment, that would net you about P9, P10, P11. And you got to go pretty much an entire second faster than that, as Barbance, actually, he has invalidated his lap. He was a further 2 tenths up. So there is more time to find it in that lap for Barbance, and presumably for everybody, because, for example, Gisela, he is 4 tenths down, heading up the hill, up to turn 3 now. Although that was on his last lap.
Yeah.
So,
but I just want to say,
but...
Zeno also popping up into the 1 minute 10.4s with P3. Yeah, this is something that I said. Remember, I think it was last race. I think I said to you actually. ARO need to step up their qualifying game. They're getting sort of edge of that sort of 8th, 9th place, 8th to 10th to 8th, but they were really struggling to get higher than that. And then in Kota they did it. And here again, ARO proving that maybe they really are on a return.
Although at the moment Geekin's down in P12 of P14, so he needs to set it a competitive lap time if ARO do want to be up there. But yeah, all the drivers setting very competitive lap times, and as some of them come out for what I presume is double runs, so 2 push laps, I'm expecting times to dip even further. I'm presuming that the track is getting better, which is why the times came down so significantly from the first to the second stint. So we could be seeing somebody dip into the 109s, but that may just be wishful thinking, because I think I'm getting a bit greedy with the lap times that we're getting at the moment, because to have 7 drivers in the 110s in conditions like these it's impressive, really. Looking now, we've got Rafi's just set a time of a 1:11.7. Joseph Dunrod's on a push down.
Look at how much it's come down. It was, we were looking at 1 minute or 12 and a half being sort of mid-pack at the start of the session. Now 11.7 puts you at the back. Joseph Dunrod, who is also on a lap. Azurk has retired because he does have that qualifying ban. Azurk though, sorry, not Azurk. Joseph Dunrod currently on a lap. He's pushing hard. Nobody else is it his teammate who's also on a lap? I'm not sure. Yes, it is. Sorry, his teammate's actually the one who's on a lap in front. Beast. He hasn't set a lap time yet. Only driver still in this session to not have set a lap time. He goes very far over the track limits, as I think we both saw. Very, very far over the track limits. He didn't get invalidated as he goes P8. That might be...
Joseph Dunrod comes up to the line, and he gets a 1:10.4. So he slots in second place. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I was watching his lap the whole way round, and he had a massive slide through the last corner. So there's even more time to find, especially for Joseph Dunrod, as I could see there that he lost about a tenth and a half, which would have put him on a very commanding pole position. But the times here are absolutely insane. Rafi putting a time in that's just 2 thousandths behind Joseph Dunrod in third place. So a couple of drivers that we haven't seen so far be competitive, if at all, in this FRLT season.
Yeah.
And
we've
got new drivers heading to the top, as Hanzo was the first driver. I said earlier that we're going to get drivers dip into the 109s. He's only just in there, but he's 5 tenths down on those ahead of him. And you've got Barbance, I believe, is coming out of the pits to start his final run.
By the way, Geekin made his way up to P8. One thing though, AMS, they need a miracle here because they're out of the drivers who've set lap times. They're at the bottom. You know, P14, P15. AMS, of course, Sasoi, the man who is leading the Drivers' Championship, who is really leading this charge from AMS this season. Let's be honest, he really is. Only driver as well, remember, out of the 4 races we've had, the only driver to have 2 victories under his belt. The only driver out there. But, you know, you've got to look at this and you've got to start to, you've got to think AMS might actually be really at risk of losing huge amounts of points to their rivals if they can't put together a good qualifying lap here. Sasoi's backing off. He's not pushing. Thought he was pushing for a minute. We know Trappy is now pushing. He's getting a nice bit of slipstream off of the car in front. Now, by the way, to anybody who thinks slipstream and the ghosting thing to get rid of the slipstream, we aren't doing that with this season, by the way. We aren't going to be doing that. As it's just a lot more time. If anybody was wondering, it just loses us a lot more time when it comes down to when we get racing and everything. Hops, by the way, just invalidated. He's going around slowly. He's got full Hanzo's retired. Barbance has got to hurry up a little bit because he's only got about 40 seconds to make it to the line. So he's got to hurry up a little bit as he goes around. Even though he is towards the end of the lap, there's still 2 more drivers in front of him. Drivers come from behind. Beast! Fastest of all! As he goes to a 1 minute 9.850. Very strong lap time from him. We've got Hops who is starting a lap. Barbance who is starting a lap. Yuri starting a lap. That's NM Earth who is on... no, he's also starting a lap. I think we're seeing
both AMS drivers are going to be starting.
Welsh Jack, he's improving. Hang on. He's improving. He's going to come up to the line. 1 minute 9.3. He's absolutely smashed it into the low 1 minute 9s. The lap times are tumbling down right now. Joseph Dunrod, he didn't make it to the line, by the way. Neither did Rafi. Zeno didn't improve.
Ethan comes to the line with a 109.7 to set himself in second place, but Pavlos displaces him with a 109.6. The track evolution is real here, and it's absolutely destroying the times that we saw before as Gisela heads into the 109.1. So he's 2 tenths down on Welsh Jack. We've got more drivers coming to the line, more times being set, and they are absolutely tumbling. We've got Welsh Jack, he's finished his session. Beast, he's finished his session. Barbance is coming through the final couple of corners. And what sort of time is he going to set? Yuri is going to be the first one across the line, though, out of those 2. And he is going to set a 109.6. That's only in 5th, but Barbance into the 108.951. And that is going to be the pole time for today.
Hang on, wait. We've got the 2 AMS drivers. They're coming up to the line next. Let's see what they can do. P4 goes Trappy. Very strong there. We've got to see what Sasoi, the championship leader, can do. He goes P4 ahead of his teammate. And that is some last minute stuff from AMS. And that is our grid. 3 different teams in the top 4. And with 4 different drivers. Interesting to see here tonight. Absolutely crazy. Barbance on pole once again.
And something else that's quite scary as well is having watched both the AMS drivers on the lap before their final push laps, they were struggling. I think they've set up for the dry conditions. And if that is true, then AMS could be absolutely flying away. We saw last race, Sazoi take the lead. Brogy, who was the one racing there, he was in second and he managed to build up a massive gap to the cars behind. So AMS aren't averse to teamwork. And I think today we could be seeing an AMS 1-2 if I am correct, and they have set up for the dry, because everyone else, they seem to have a little bit more control than the 2 AMS drivers. So
let's go through the order of the grid before this order goes. Barbance is on pole position once again, I believe. Is it like the 3rd time I think we've seen him on pole? Heisler is in 2nd, Welsh Jack 3rd, Sasoi 4th with his teammate Trappy in 5th. Paulos is 6th, Yuri in 7th, Geek in 8th. Beast 9th, Hanzo is in 10th, Joseph Dunrod in 11th, Rafi 12th, Hops 13th, Zeno 14th, Earth in 15th, Azuk 16th, Rising Moon 17th, and I don't even know how to even say that final name, if I'm being honest. if I'm being completely honest. I don't know how to say that no name. I'm going to call him Bus because it's just going to be easier. Just give me a quick second. Yeah, there.
It is going to be raining, but it looks a lot lighter than it was in the first session.
Definitely
so
looks
it's
easier.
It's either going to be one of those races like last week where we do start in sort of the intermediate conditions and we transition to the lighter conditions, or it's going to be starting like this and getting worse. I don't think we'll see a race where there's just light rain all the way through, but the pit lane is looking pretty dry. There's no standing water in it, and I'm presuming it's the same for the track. And it could be a gamble today to see somebody on the soft compound tyres. People are actually starting on dries. Every single driver, according to the race director, is on dry compound tyres. We'll see how true that is once we get to the race, but it could just be that it's a fleeting shower and we're just going to ignore it.
Definitely. So let's talk about strategy here. Of course, it's going to be really difficult to predict strategy because, of course, it is wet conditions. Usually we'd see sort of a medium to hard, hard to medium strategy because of the amount of laps, 36 laps this race is. But I'm maybe leaning towards intermediates in the first part of the race, and then maybe hard tyres for the rest, or if people want to do two-stop, hard and then softs at the end. That's sort of what I'm looking at, when it comes down to two stops or one stop. But I've got to say, CRE, we were saying about how important this qualifying was. One driver up in there, P3. The other one down in, I believe, P12. Quite a rough one as well. It's quite odd to see, if I'm being honest. Hops last season showed that he had quite a bit of pace. He showed again in this session, but do you think some teams lost out because they just went out a bit too early?
Yeah, the track evolution was absolutely ridiculous because we saw 112s being put in at the start and we saw a 108 with Barbants right at the end. So it was very much something that you had to watch because you had to be right on the timings in that session, and you saw both the AMS drivers were the last two across the line, and they were able to set times good enough for fourth and fifth. And dare I say it, had they done exactly the same thing on the previous lap, they wouldn't have had the same amount of edge. But they were able to time it right, and they got away with it.
Definitely. I believe we're going to be getting going in the next few moments. Going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here tonight. We've got a long race ahead of us, 36 laps, of course. Drivers have got to get together their racecraft. This track quite easy to overtake on, of course. You've got corners like turn 3 and turn 4 where you can overtake. The sort of two main places we see overtakes on the track. Also down the straights, of course, where you have, for instance, the pit straight, second straight, and back straight, where where pretty much we see all of the overtakes take places all the way round, sort of sector 1 and half of sector 2, basically. What's going to be interesting to see is how will the drivers take this start? Are they going to be careful, or are they going to want to push up the grid? I know drivers like Hops will be wanting to push up the grid because he showed he had the pace, but we're going to get going. 1, 2, 3, 4, fire lights! And away we go here in FRLT Tier 1 for Austria. It's a good getaway from Barbans. He's got it away incredibly well. I think a lot of drivers are on... Yeah, they are. They're on soft tyres. There's a lot of drivers on soft tyres and mediums. Everybody is on the dry running tyre. Now, heading down towards turn 3. Oh, that's Azurk who's gone round. He spun in the first sector. Bad start for 12 Esports. We see quite a bit of fighting further back. Welsh Jack trying to make the move on Heisler. We can see Yuri's making his way up. Quite a few drivers going off. I believe that was Trappy who went off in turn 3. Still fighting. I believe Trappy might have some damage. Welsh Jack has made a move. He's going to try and make the move around the outside of Heisler. He's going to try and do it. Maybe it is the switchback move. He can't do it. Not just yet. Has he got enough speed? No, he hasn't. He's going to have to just stay in behind, and he's going to have to wait for the moment. Hops is battling further down for P11 with Rafi, and there's absolutely a camera angle for a second there, and he can't make his way past Rafi. He's going to actually get dive bombed by Zeno into the next corner, as we see Hops is actually dropping down the order quite slowly and quite painfully at the moment.
But the start from Barbants and Yuri was mainly down to the fact that they chose the soft compound tyre. They're the only drivers on the grid to have started on the soft compound tyre, and that's why Barbance was able to get such a launch off the line, and that's why he's now 1.7 seconds ahead of Gisela in second and Welsh Jack in third place. But all these drivers are going to be very competitive early on. We will see lots and lots of overtakes, including that one by Raffi on Beast. And actually, Beast had issues through turn one. He's lost another position to Zeno. He could be losing another one here to Hops. As Hops goes down the inside, heading up to turn 3. He's trying to thread the needle behind Zeno, but he's hit Zeno. And he's gone into the wall. And that could be damage, possibly, for both of those drivers. He just got very ambitious on the brakes. But there we go. He's down into P14. He's not actually lost out too badly. But he's in this massive scrap with Earth and Zeno and Bus. Bus has gone down the inside of Zeno into that corner. And through on the exit, he's got it. Earth is trying to push Zeno for the position. But at the moment, they seem to be staying in the same sorts of positions. Raffi's looking racy early on. As Joseph Dunrod, I believe, is in AI mode. He may have left the race. But Geekin and Yuri, the latest battle, they're side by side. Geekin has gotten past Yuri, and Trappy's actually gotten past Yuri as well. So he's dropping down as well, but Yuri's holding on. He's holding on around the final corner. He's trying to cling onto that move, get a little bit of wheel spin off the exit. Trappy takes the advantage, and he takes that P6. But Yuri's going to look to fight back as soon as possible. We've got, I think, Earth going slowly down the main straight. That's why we've got yellow flags out. And heading down the straight, we've got Yuri, who's looking for the move on AMS. Trappy, I don't think he's got the momentum to take the position. But further back again, we've got Bus and Hops going side by side. Bus down the inside, and he looks to take that position. He could get a double overtake here as he's down the inside of Hanzo. Hanzo gets the power down, so it looks like he's holding on to the position. And there's also fighting up and down the grid. And here's another one. Gisela and Welsh Jack as Gisela squeezes Welsh Jack onto the gravel, and Sazoi takes the advantage, and he takes the position. He's up into P3. But Welsh Jack will not feel that like that was a fair move there. He was squeezed right onto the gravel, and we'll have to see whether that is reported at the end of this race. But at the moment, we've got Barbance 3 seconds up ahead of Gisela. Sazoi in third, although he's looking racy, and he's looking like he'll want to get past Gisela soon. Welsh Jack in fourth, Geekin in fifth, Trappy, Yuri, Joseph Dunrod, who looks like he's returned now, ahead of Pavlos, Beast, Hanzo, Zeno, Bus, Hops, Rising Moon, Earth, Raffi, and then Azurk 28 seconds behind, although I think Raffi might take that because he's coming to the pits.
By the way, I'm seeing in the chat people laughing about calling a good man Bus as Sasoi makes the move on Heiser for P2 now in this race as they close up to Barbance. Quite a bit, half a second, by the way, down that straight. So a lot of time being found. The only reason why we're calling him Bus is because we don't know how to say the rest of his name. Let's be honest. That is a difficult name to say, to be honest. I don't know how he wants us to say it. As you can see, Joseph Dunrod making the move up into P7. Yuri really struggling on those soft tyres now. Same as Barbance. Same as Barbance. He's actually struggling quite a bit. I'm actually realising that now. He's lost 0.6 of a second this lap alone. And he's losing more and more time. And as you can see, another 10th to that corner. But it is little drops of rain are coming down, by the way. I'm realising drops of rain are coming down more and more heavily now. So maybe we were a bit wrong. Maybe they were starting on the dry tyres. And now going... They might have to go to the inters. They might have to because the rain's coming down quite a bit more.
They were forced to start on the dry compound tyres and had to move on to... And if it does get worse, they will have to move on to the intermediate tyres. Nobody was allowed to take that gamble. And I'm not surprised considering the fact that the conditions haven't worsened that much, but it's looking very grey above them as we head into lap 5 of this Grand Prix now. So it could be that the gamble pays off for Zeno and for Barbance onto the soft compound tyres. It could be a perfect gamble as Gisela and Welsh Jack are side by side. Jack is down the inside and Gisela allows him the position because he was looking for a switchback, and there's contact between the two again. Gisela is pushing Welsh Jack down now, and it looks like he's going to slot in there in P4. But Gisela and Welsh Jack have been fighting a lot in these first few laps, and I think this is going to be an interesting battle to watch as the race continues on and as the battle develops. They are both on medium compound tyres, so their tyres are going to be about the same. They're going to fall off at around the same time. But I'm interested to see, does this rain hold? And does Barbance benefit? although he's lost another 6/10 on that lap, he's now only 1.4 seconds ahead of Suzuki. So this gap is narrowing, and it could be that within the next couple of laps, Suzuki gets the DRS on Barbance, and at this track where there is 3 DRS zones, that is a no go. You cannot see yourself in the lead of a pack. It's like in a bike race where you're trying to stay behind, and it's like Formula E as well. That you try and stay behind, conserve energy. Trappy goes down the inside, and Joseph Dunrod almost spins him, but on the exit, Trappy and Heesler are able to get back on track and making minimal contact. But this is a driver that I'm watching a lot in this race. It's going to be Heesler, who has looked racy early on. He's looking a little bit wobbly now. It's getting a little bit wetter, I think, as they head through lap 6. And Trappy is looking to take full advantage of getting past Heesler. Down the straight, he'll have the DRS.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, I believe it's a Nimbus. I just cannot read. I believe it's Nimbus, not just bus. Because I'm getting a lesson now.
Of course it is. Yeah.
I thought it was... I didn't see the Nim bit on it. I was just like, all I saw was Im, and that was it. As, by the way, change for the lead. Barbance down to P2, as Sasoy takes the lead again, and it's for the 5th time, by the way, this season. He's taken the lead of the race for at least 1 lap. Or for at least...
Barbance is looking to come back. Barbance is down the inside of Suzuki, and he looks to take the advantage, heading through now. So does Suzuki get the power down enough? It looks like Barbance is going to take the position. I was going to say that it looks like they're going to be side by side. Barbance allows Suzuki the space, so they are side by side now, and he's got the inside line. Barbance allows him the position, but he's going to get the DRS down at least the first of these 3 straights, and this is going to be where this race is won or lost. Who can gain the most down these straights, irrespective of whether it's raining or not? These are a large portion of the track, and the DRS, especially at this part of the race, is absolutely crucial. Barbance isn't going to gain enough down the main straight. Times are getting lower, and I cannot see many raindrops left, so it could have just been a fleeting moment of rain as Barbance closes in on Suzuki. He's going to look to the inside of turn 3. Is he going to make the move? No, he's not, because he wants that 3rd DRS dose that he's going to get right about now. But Welsh Jack is looking to attack him. He gets the power down on the exit, and it looks like we could have a switch for P2. Around the outside, Jack looks. Geekin is in the background looking to take the advantage, but Barbance holding on. Welsh Jack around the outside. Barbance holding the inside line. They're still side by side, and it looks like Welsh Jack is going to take the position. Barbance falls down once again. He's into P3. It could be P4 in the space of just another corner as Geekin holds the inside line. And he's up into P3. Barbance is falling now.
Definitely. This is the problem with going for the softs. They don't last long around the track, especially around Austria, even though it is a short track. They only usually last about 8 to 10 laps. So they're coming to that point now. So Soy has just put in the first lap. And now Beast does at 1 minute 7.6 as it's tumbling down the order, by the way. 1 minute 7.6 is now the fastest lap. That's already faster than what we were doing in qualifying by about 1.3 seconds, by about, I believe, 0.8 of a second at the moment.
We've got moves being made. Geekin's just got past Welsh Jack, and Barbance has lost another position. He's looking, though, to take it around the outside, squeezing Heeslar to the inside line. Barbance is going to have the outside with the DRS as well, but Heeslar just about able to hold on, squeezing Barbance onto the curbing, and on the exit, he doesn't want to fall the same fate as Welsh Jack had just a couple of laps ago. And Barbance falls again down to P5, so he is dropping like a fly. And I think he gambled on the fact that the rain was going to get heavier, and now that it's not, it's going to be a very interesting strategy call. We mentioned earlier that it was going to be mediums, 2 hards. That was the ideal race strategy, and yeah, Barbance is going to come into the pits at the end of this lap.
Definitely. I'm being absolutely scolded in the chat for calling my good man for calling him Nimbus. I'm getting absolutely scolded by everybody in the chat. Except the way it's spelt means that I can't actually say it, by the way. As Geekin makes the move for the lead, but he goes a little bit too tight to the corner. We're going 3 wide. Welsh Jack is actually going to find his way past Geekin with an amazing exit. Here they go, heading down this second straight. Are we going to see a move? Heiser trying to go around the outside. Is he going to be able to make the move on Geekin? No, he can't. He's going to have to stay in P4 for now. But that's some crazy action going on there. But by the way, I've just realised, if you want to look in the chat, by the way, in the YouTube chat, you'll
I'm ignoring
in the
it.
stream chat. Yeah, you see what I mean by this is why we can't say it. There are some reasons why we can't say it. You just have to look at the spelling.
I thought about it at the start of the race, and
Yeah,
that's
me
why I was
too.
quite glad that you identified that we were going to call him Bus from now on. But
Yeah, or Nimbus. I don't care. It's just we cannot actually say that. By the way, we can't.
Welsh
actually say
Jack
that.
is looking to go side by side with Suzuki. He's going to tuck in through turn 1. But yeah, I wouldn't say the whole name anyway, because that's the longest name we've got on the grid. Welsh Jack closing in on Suzuki. Looking for the outside line. Is Suzuki going to block it off? No, he's going to allow him to go through. And they're going to be side by side, heading through turn 3 now. We've got another battle going through as Geekin tries to get past Suzuki. Trappy gets past Hisala. And it's getting the power down on the exit of turn 3 that's the most important part of this race. Because that's where all the overtakes have been made. That's how all the overtakes are being made. It's there, and it's through this corner. Geekin down the inside of Suzuki. Suzuki swerves and hits Geekin, but he's lost a couple of positions. So he's the one that ultimately loses out there. Because now he's down to P5. Trappy and Hisla have gone through. But Suzuki with a big, big wobble. It's a big struggle. You don't want to be in the lead of this race. I mentioned that earlier. And now, Barbance, he lost positions. He's now down to P15 because he came into the pits. Suzuki was leading. He was out of the DRS. But he's back in it. And he's back in it in a big way because he's down into P5. Welsh Jack leads this race. But it just feels like nobody wants the lead of this race.
Definitely. Nobody would want the lead of this race because it's so easy to be overtaken. I think we're going to see Geekin make the move for the lead as he goes around the outside. Bit different from what Welsh Jack did, but he's going to go down into turn number 3. He's going to make the move. Can he make it stick though? Barbance just put in the fastest lap here in the race so far on those fresh tyres. I believe they were hard tyres he's stuck on. So he wants to go till the end of the race. It's very cloudy still. It's very cloudy, as I think we can still see dark and dingy. That's as I would say. This could still be a factor for drivers. You know, them thinking, could it still rain? Will it still rain? Because that's kind of the main question. Is it going to still rain soon, or is it going to stay like this? As Joseph Dunrod gets a 3-second time penalty, he drops now down to P8. But you know what I mean? This is the point where it's very important for drivers just to be thinking, what do they want to do? What do we want to do for, you know, the rest of the race? Do we want to try and predict that there's going to be rain? Or are we going to try and go with it? But I can see some breaking out, as we can see a car breaking out of line. And that is Welsh Jack as he returns to the lead of the race. We've got some racing further back. Heisler, Sasoi and Hanzo all fighting. Oh, bit of contact there. Sasoi's making his way past Heisler, but he's now got Hanzo behind, who also wants to make the move. You can see from the front wing of the ARC driver, he's going to head down into turn 4. And he's going to try and steal that position back, and he's going to successfully do it at the same time.
But yeah, this is going to be the top sort of pack for this race. I'd argue down to Hanzo, because I think Barbance's gamble isn't going to pay off unless he does have the supreme pace that we've seen him have in the first few races. I cannot see a way where he makes those hard compound tyres last, 26 laps? I think it's going to be a struggle, and I think he's hoping for a safety car to get him back into the race. We could be seeing another switch for the lead as Geekin is going to be fighting. Hanzo's fighting, and he's down the inside of Hisala, who gives him the position. But yeah, we are going to see a switch for the lead of the race. Geekin goes up ahead of Welsh Jack. These two have been the early leaders as it's side by side again. Who's that going side by side? It's Suzuki and Hanzo. Suzuki sending it down the inside, not quite making the move stick, but he's going to get the DRS on the exit, and he probably had the momentum as well, but it's been quashed by Hanzo, who stays ahead, and it looks like Geekin manages to hold on to that lead for the first time in a few laps. But yeah, all the drivers actually, the top 11 drivers are all within DRS range.
And remember, 3 drivers have also stopped in this race as well. 4 or 5 drivers have stopped in this race. So the rest of the grid have made a pit stop. I do believe. I'll double check that right now, just to see if I'm correct. As Heisler is going to go into the pits. Everybody from 13th down to 17th has made stops in this race. So the only reason why they're further behind is because of pit stops. So realistically, it would be down to 16th.
And it'll be interesting to see where Heeslar comes out in relation to the rest of them, because this is now where Barbant's, Bus, Yuri, and Hop's positions in the pecking order is decided. Barbant's is ahead of Heeslar, and his tyres aren't that much older. But where is Bus going to come out? And yes, I'm going to keep calling him that because I've got that in my head now and I can't change it. Coming around the first corner,
say the full name.
he's miles behind Heeslar. And I think Heeslar's going to slot in around where the middle order is. Yuri gets past Bus now and he's up into P14, but his soft compound tyres went off a lot earlier than Barbant's, so he's not really got the advantage.
Same as Hops, he had the sort of same problem. His tyres went off very early. Raffi decides to retire from the session as second driver to retire from the race. We can see 2 drivers coming in, and that is Welsh Jack and I believe Trappy. Yeah, it is. It's Trappy coming in as well. So some of the top 7 coming into the pits now. So they're coming in quite a bit earlier. Of course, they're feeling like hard tyres will make it because, of course, these mediums have made it about 16 laps. The hards will easily make the final 20-lap stint. Hops and CRE, a day of difference between the drivers, isn't it? One's down in 16th, trailing for 5 seconds behind 15th place. And the other is potentially fighting for the win. Yet he has stopped now. So we'll have to see, is the undercut going to work or is the overcut going to work? Which one's going to work best? Geekin hasn't actually had bad pace, actually, on the tyre, sort of for tyre life. His pace actually has been pretty decent on those hard tyres. Only lapping, by the way, that middle sector at the end of it, only about 9/10 off of his personal best in this race, which of course was with DRS and Slipstream. So he's had a little bit of a change. Zeno and Joseph Dunrod fighting, but that's actually Sassoy coming into the pits now. As Dunrod gets past Zeno, as we can see another car coming into the pits, that's Beast, who's also on his way in. Couple more drivers now stopping in this race. Only 6 drivers have not stopped yet. So we can see that list is, of course, growing. They're feeling like it's time to change the tyres. I think we'll see Geekin and Hanzo come in very soon so they don't get undercut by the drivers behind, or hopefully maybe a lap or 2 will help their tyre wear. Zeno goes for the move on Dunrod to get back past him once again. And it's going to be Dunrod who's going to get the DRS once again as we head towards the corner of turn 4. Interesting race though we're looking at.
It's 3 wide. It's 3 wide in turn 3. Sorry, but it's 3 wide in turn 3 between Welsh Jack, Trappy, and Sazoy. Sazoy backs out of the move. Welsh Jack gets the lead of the race. He had the momentum heading out of the first corner, almost 3 wide again. But it's side by side between Jack and Sazoy, and it's side by side between Trappy and Heeslar. Around the outside looks Jack, but Sazoy has the momentum. He's up into P9, but down the inside goes Trappy on Heeslar, who's almost down the inside of Jack as well. But sorry to interrupt you and whatever your question was, but that was very, very close between the 3 drivers, and also Heeslar waiting in the wings as well. That he could have been caught up in that. But yeah, the 2 AMS drivers, as Heeslar has a massive wobble, the 2 AMS drivers in the same sort of area. And this is exactly where they'd want to be at this point in the race, because they're only 7 seconds off Barbant's in P8, and he's got 7 laps older hard compound tyres. So this is basically the battle for the lead of the race between Sazoy, Jack, Trappy, and Heeslar now.
Yeah, I think Geekin is making himself struggle quite a bit on those hard tyres. I think he is going to find himself maybe 4 or 5 seconds off of, Sasoy when it comes down to when he stops. Because if he stops on, like, let's say lap 25 and goes to the soft tyres, I don't think it's going to work. But he's probably going to go to the mediums in the next lap or 2, but he's got to go now. Because he's losing so much time at the moment, by the way. He's losing 1.8 seconds a lap, by the way. Last lap, he lost 1.1. Even with these guys fighting, 1.1 seconds was what he still lost. So he's still losing huge amounts of time. And especially for a short lap like this as well, as Earth comes into the pits now. I believe this is his first time. I think it's maybe his first or second time stopping in this race. I'm not 100%.
It's his first, yeah.
Okay, first time stopping in the pits. DLI FP1 we're wishing for a little bit of a better day than what they've gotten so far. Their season, of course, been a bit of a difficult one. Tyre-wise, everybody's on hards except Earth. He's the only one on mediums. Quite interesting to see as Geekin makes the move on Hanzo. These two fighting is not smart. I don't know what they're up to at the moment and why they're fighting. But like I said, everybody on hards except Earth. Well, I think we'll be expecting quite a few drivers to go to the mediums very soon. But you see, this is the thing that we're seeing a bit too much with these guys out front. They're not thinking about the long-term strategy. They're only thinking about track position. And it's ultimately losing them out time. Geekin's going to lead onto lap 20, leading another lap. So he's going quite far on these hard tyres, let's be honest. This would usually be the lap that you would pit for mediums or slightly earlier. So, you know, he's going to be hoping he can maybe try and make it. But softs won't be a good option. Paulos comes into the pits, by the way. He was P6. He's going to drop down quite a few positions. As you can see, he's already going to be outside of the top 10 by the time he's not even exiting the pits yet. He's actually going to find himself quite far down in position. But these guys in front are losing time. And by the way, by what my simulations are saying, all of the top 5 who are currently out there, who have not pitted yet, will find themselves outside of the top 8 as it stands.
I think it'll be further than that. I think they'll be
maybe
down around 11th.
At the moment, it says P8 for this man of Hanzo. Well, it was for Geekin a second ago. It was for Geekin. As now you can see, they're coming into the pits. The only thing I would say about this track that I dislike is the pit lane. That's the only thing I dislike. And it's the way, you know, that it's on the inside of a corner. And they kind of wash out slightly onto the racing line. Only Zeno, Rising Moon, and Joseph Dunrod are now left out on track. Barbance, by the way, will be the man who will take the lead of the race once these three do eventually come into the pits at some point during their lifespan. Sasoi, though, within 5 seconds, but I do want to make it clear, he's not been catching as much. The last 3 laps, he hasn't caught as much as well. Jack's going to make the move now on Sasoi. But he hasn't been catching as much on Barbance, by the way. They've actually been losing bits of time on Barbance. Last lap, only 3.5 tenths faster than Barbance overall during the whole of last lap. So really, at the moment, let's be honest, they're not catching huge amounts and might actually find themselves by about maybe lap 30, only catch, as it says at the moment, only about lap 31, it's set that they're set to catch. So we might be waiting here for a while. As Geekin's down in 12th, by the way. That's how far he's found himself going down. With Hanzo being P9, though. Right in front of Geekin, remember? And now there's 3 positions between them. This is how much it's meant. But the only one downside to the difference in strategies is the gap now between the front few drivers and the rest of them. There's quite a large gap now.
But they're going to have the tyres at the end of the race, the likes of Hanzo and Geekin, to come back into the race. Are they going to have the time, though? History would say no, because on this game, the undercut is always very, very overpowered. And that's why I think the battle is between Sazoi, Jack, Trappy, and Heeslar. But I think the medium tyres could work, but it'll have to be stop them fighting, as Zeno and Pavlos are fighting very, very hard right now with Bus and Yuri, 2 drivers on hard compound tyres, and have been for a while. But this is a very interesting time in the race where you've got 2 or 3, if you're including Rising Moon, 2 different strategies where all the drivers are basically, you don't know where they are in terms of actual position. I know that on track we have the positions that we do, but for example, Hanzo, he's cut down that gap to that top 4 battle by, I think that was by 3 seconds since he came out of the pits, which is a massive, massive gain. And how long can he keep that up? I'm not sure he'll be able to keep it up at that same level again, but if he can close in on that top group, then that will be very, very strong. As that top group are actually closing in on Barbance for the lead of the race.
Very
It's now
slightly,
down
by
to
the way.
4.3 seconds.
This time last lap was 4.4. So they've only gained, since the end of the first sector, they've only gained a tenth of a second in all of that. So when you're thinking about it, the gap isn't working at the moment for Welsh Jack. That, the overcut has not worked. Another, tenth here and there, so far, now only gained 3/10 this lap. They haven't gained a lot overall throughout this lap, especially for having DRS as well. Which is quite confusing that, they're getting 3/10 of a second closer each lap, but still, by my predictions, it's still about lap 28 to lap 30 that we're going to actually see them make the move.
But Barbance has got his tyres are going to be going off much quicker because the hards have a longer prime, but then when they fall off, they fall off.
Yeah,
and I think that's what I think that's what Jack, Sazoi, Trappy, and Heesler are waiting for, is that time where Barbance's tyres do fall off, because they have gained 4/10 in that lap, and there's no way that Barbance is going to be able to make those tyres last 12 more laps, unless he does some insane defending of the tyres. Conservation is the word I was thinking of. As Rising Moon retires out on track, but it doesn't look like he's crashed. It just looks like he has retired and pulled over to the side.
That is a penalty, by the way. that is a penalty. You have to retire in the pits. I've made this clear.
Didn't want to mention that, but there we go.
Yeah, I've mentioned this many times. Please retire in the pits. As you can see, Zeno getting past Jury. He got past Jury. He's trying to get past Beast now for P8. Do you think AERO have pulled off a bit of a masterpiece of a strategy? Well, actually, for Geekin, they haven't, because he's near on 3 seconds behind Heisler. He's gotten past Hanzo, by the way, but they've only gained a second in the last 3 laps between, for instance, Hanzo and Heisler. Only a second in the last 3-4 laps.
But again, it's about tyre management, and it's about can Hanzo and Geekin and Zeno conserve those tyres. And having looked at that big lockup that Hanzo made when he was overtaking Geekin on that lap, no is the answer to that question. But it's also down to how long can those hard compound tyres last, because we've seen Barbance be reeled in by about lap 14 on those hards, and the front group have got about 4 or 5 laps until that happens. And can Hanzo, Geekin, Zeno, and to an extent Joseph Dunrod, can they manage those tyres to that point where they'll be about 7 laps old? They will start to get older, but if they close in, then, well,
by the way,
we could be in for an exciting end.
These guys, the top from second to fifth, by the way, they're already lapping about almost 1.5 seconds slower than what they were lapping before. Yeah, so they were lapping about a second slower a minute ago. When they finished last lap, 1.5 seconds slower. So Sassoy's really, I think these 4 are really starting to struggle now on their tyres. But I also think that the medium runners are also struggling quite a bit in this session, I think, as well. Because they are, of course, they've only caught 0.3 of a second from last lap. And
well, they need to stop fighting.
Yeah, and also, remember, that's only during the corners. That's the only place where Geekin and Hanzo are catching, is during the corners. But even then, they're maybe gaining 800, maybe at most, through, for instance, the double left-hander, a 10th in each one. That's where they're mainly gaining time, is through, for instance, turn 4, turn 6 and 7, and turn 9 and 10. Those are the places that they're really fighting. But you can see these front 2, Welsh Jack and Sassoy, both getting in a little bit racy. Definitely a little bit racy. I've heard somebody saying that we're a little bit quiet. I'll push up the audio very slightly. I'll push up the audio for both of us. If you just talk for a second, just so I can double check that it's working.
That's fine. Because Geekin and Hanzo are fighting a lot, and they are actually losing time. They've lost 4/10 in those 2 corners alone, just because of how much fighting they've been doing. There's a virtual safety car out because of Yuri, who's I think, gone round in the straight between turn 3 and turn 4.
He's trying to reverse.
So this,
Is he stuck?
he could be. I
Is
know
he
that
stuck in
he's
the
been
wall?
disqualified because he parked in a
Oh no,
dangerous
he's
location.
stuck. He's stuck on the hill. He's beached.
Okay.
That's why
Well,
he's
Bob,
beached.
coming to the pits. This is the time for a lot of the drivers.
This is exactly what Barbans was waiting for, wasn't it? This is
Exactly.
like.
Well, yeah.
But the problem is, he's still going to find himself down into P9, and the racing's got him going again. But it's perfectly on time because he's still inside of the top 10. Disappointing for Yuri in the ABE, of course, because that's very unlucky. You can't lie for Yuri to get beached on the hill. Why do they make the game like this? Why? I get that it happens.
You can get ditched on a curb.
No. I get the point that F1 cars can, but it's a very odd place to get beached, to be honest.
I think the only other place I've ever been beached is Spain on the final corner.
Yeah, on the curbs. You don't see it on grass, bro.
Oh, was it on grass?
Yeah, he was on grass.
Oh, brilliant.
How do you get beached on a hill in an F1? And yeah, odd.
Somebody in the chat saying on purpose. I don't think he would have gotten stuck on the grass on purpose.
Big call saying on purpose. Geekin, by the way, they've actually, lost some time during that virtual safety car to the front 4. Because remember, they were they got within 3 seconds. They've now dropped off a little bit. They definitely.
Well, they've been dropping off over the last few laps. Even before the virtual safety car, they lost 4/10 in 1 lap. So I think this is the time where the longevity for the hard compound tyres is seeing them last much, much longer. And the medium compound tyres are, at this point, about the same as the hards. And because Hanzo and Geekin are fighting through the corners, it's slowing them down. And I think they need to be very sensible about this. I think Sazoy and Welsh Jack have been very sensible about this in that they've only overtaken using DRS. They've only overtaken when they've had to. And that's been their strength today. And that's why they're not being closed in further by Hanzo and Geekin.
Definitely, I do agree. By the way, Barbance closed in half a second through these corners at the moment. He's flying on those medium tyres. By my timing, he's just gone, I believe he's just gone about 9/10 of a second faster through those 2 corners alone than the fastest than Sasoy at the moment, than the leading driver. It's still not going to be enough, but look at that. He's closed up within 2 seconds by the end of the lap. 1 minute 5.2. That's a second faster than his personal best in this entire race, by the way. This battle, though, for the win is still 4 ways at the moment. It's still definitely a 4-way battle. But again, that's Nimbus. He's gone off. But as I was saying, it's again, we're seeing this huge battle. Heisler, by the way, making his way past Trappy, but this race again looks like AMS domination this season. Another 2 of their drivers inside of the top 4, but this time inside of the top 3, first and third, double podium for them. What do you think?
But it's not even the same one that was last time.
Yeah.
It's not even the same driver that came out last time. So that demonstrates the strength of the AMS team. The fact that they can have... Sazoy's up there. Sazoy was up there last race, but...
Yeah, he won
Alessio Broghi was the one... Yeah. But Alessio Broghi was the one who helped out last race, and now it's Trappy who's on the pace immediately.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the interesting thing that we're starting to see. AMS, they've won 2 races out of the 4. Currently could be on their way to a 3rd win out of 5 races, and specifically, especially with just Sasoy on his own as well, for being the man who's won those races. But it's going to be incredibly it's going to be pretty strange to see. There's still Heisler. Don't forget, we've seen CRE win. Of course, they won the opening race of the season. But we've got to remember, there's still that ART driver of Heisler sitting there in P4. He's definitely been sitting there on purpose. I think we've seen that. He tried to make his way past Trappy, of course. But we've seen that he's sitting there. And do you think he's just waiting now for the moment to arrive? I
think Trappy and Heisler both are. I think they both are waiting for the moment to make the move.
Slightly. They're dropping off by a few tenths. I mean, Trappy almost half a second behind Welsh Jack. At the moment, it's all about waiting. Hanzo gets a 3-second time penalty, so some happy news for both Geekin and Zeno. They're going to move up to P5 and P6, so another incredibly strong points finish for ARO. But to be honest, TIR and AERO they kind of bottled this one again, haven't they? They've kind of bottled a chance at the race victory, especially with Geekin and for Hanzo. They both kind of bottled it with their strategy. As they're not really catching, they've caught up by 2/10 last lap. They're catching up very slowly, but not really. Barbets, by the way, has just caught up to the back of Beast, as he's now made the move on Beast up into P8. These next three drivers in front of him, I think are going to be easy pickings for him because of his tyre life. Like, look at how much later he can just brake and how close he can get without being worried. So I could definitely see Barbants finishing P5 at the moment in this race. But getting up to P4, going to be difficult, especially with just 4 laps remaining.
I can see him catching up because the only reason that he's still down there is because he was fighting with Beast. And Beast was putting up a stout defensive performance because Barbants didn't want to take too many risks. And I think as we go on, as he gets more frustrated behind this group, because you can see the pace advantage he has over Zeno, especially in that corner, and heading out the final one, he's going to be closing in on the AERO. And is he going to send it down the inside? Yes, he is. Barbants is going to be side by side with Zeno. There's almost contact between the two drivers. DRS is going to be available for both of them, and they head up the hill now. It's side by side between Hanzo and Geekin right up ahead, but Barbants is looking to the inside line on Zeno, and he's going to get the move done. Up into P7 for Barbants, but he is not done in this race. He's might be even looking to get past Geekin in the next corner as he looks to the outside, switching to the inside line. He is going to send it. That's a huge send from Barbants, and that's a huge statement to make. And Geekin just doesn't have the grip to hold on to the back of him. And now Barbants has only got Hanzo right ahead of him before he can go and attack in fresh air the top 4 drivers. So I wouldn't count him out yet this race. I've watched him the last few laps. He has been very, very quick in comparison to the rest of them. I'm sure you've got some sort of data to back me up on that. But he's coming through the final corner now. He will be getting the DRS on Hanzo. Hanzo does not have DRS, and I'm expecting this to be a very simple pass through the first couple of straights. It's not going to be the first one, but the second one, it's almost a guarantee that Barbants is going to be up and ahead of Hanzo. DRS has been opened as they head up the hill. Hanzo defends the inside line, but there is no match for Barbants. Geekin as well goes through, and he's side by side with Barbants, but Barbants just has that grip that allows him to take the position. Barbants is up into 5th.
Barbants gets a 3-second time penalty, by the way.
Barbants gets a 3-second... I didn't even see that. Barbants gets a 3-second time penalty. That could cost his race chances, because I think on pace, he's going to be up there at the end with the top 4 drivers. But with a 3-second time penalty, that makes it just that much more difficult to catch up and to overtake, because he will have to do all that and then also have to bridge 3 seconds to the cars behind. So unless he has a ridiculous last couple of laps, that's pretty much Barbants' race over in a single moment. But he's gained 5/10 on this lap, and I think there's potential for more. He's almost gained a second now on the top 4 drivers as he comes out the final corner. It won't be enough heading through the final couple of laps now. But
Only
Barbants...
2 laps left.
Yeah, there is only 2 laps left, and I think Barbants is going to struggle as now there's battling for the lead, and we can talk about it as Sazoi takes the lead from Welsh Jack as they have been swapping, but this sort of time that feels malicious and that feels intentional. He is fighting for the race victory. They're not just swapping for time gain anymore, and Sazoi defends the inside line. He swapped from the outside to the inside, heading through the corner. A very good line.
He's getting very close. Heiser's getting very close to Trappy. I think a little bit too close for his liking there, because you can see that very bright green car is all over the back of Trappy. I think Trappy's maybe used up his tyres a little bit too early in this race. I do suspect he has, because look at how Heiser is just sticking to the back of that AMS car without a problem. But we're going to be coming to the final lap here in Austria for round 5. As Sasoi crosses the line to start the final lap of the race. It's a battle for the lead, 4-way battle. Here comes Welsh Jack. He's wanted to pick up CRE's second win of the season. Nothing has gone their way since really Belgium. But now here comes Welsh Jack going around at the outside, which is going to turn to the inside. Welsh Jack leads into turn 3. Who's going to be trying to make a move down into the next straight? You can see Heiser getting pretty close to Trappy. He's wanting to make a move. I don't think we're going to be seeing many changes for the lead now. But here comes Sasoi. He's using everything he's got. All of the straight line speed he has. He's going to move to the inside. Late move. Here comes Sasoi. Down the inside goes AMS Sasoi on Welsh Jack. But here comes Trappy as well. Trappy trying to make the move at the same time, but look at this! Contact between Welsh Jack. Heiser's trying to make his way past. He's going to push past Trappy in the end onto the podium. Everything is changing here and now. Heiser, he's fighting with Trappy still. He's still going to go into the final last 2 corners. Heiser's going to be in P3, but we got to look to the man in the lead. It's going to be back-to-back victories for AMS and back-to-back victories for Sasoy, as Welsh Jack finishes second with ART on the podium, as well as Zeno makes his way up into P5 with Trappy in P4. But what a last-minute move for both Sasoy and Heisler.
That was absolutely ridiculous. The double left-hander has never seen so many cars try and go through side by side. We had a moment in that second one where they were 3 wide behind Sasoy. So that was ridiculous racing right at the end. And that was absolutely what we were waiting for. All these drivers were waiting for their chance to attack. They all took it at the right time, and that created some scintillating racing action. And Sasoy taking victory today, it could only be him, because although the other 3 had the pace, Trappy seemed to be the one playing the second driver role today, holding off Gisela, who arguably waited too long to get past Trappy and then push further up. Welsh Jack as well deserves commendation, because he was able to stick with Sasoy all of that time, swapping positions for the lead. I don't know how many times they swapped, but they swapped so many times that we just started ignoring it. And it was just, the top 4 drove an absolutely incredible race today, and they all deserved the race victory.
So, let's go through the grid order. Sasoy, he's done it not only for a second time in a row, he's done it for the 3rd time this season out of 5 races. Sasoy really being the man on top for AMS. Welsh Jack finds CRE back on the podium once again this season with Heisler in 3rd ART. I believe that's their first podium of the season, I think. If I'm correct, I'm not 100% sure, but it's still a nice podium finish for him.
It's their second podium of the season.
Second podium, pretty nice. That's equaling last season, by the way, so they've already done that by round 5. Trappy misses out on the podium, but still P4 and a strong finish. Zeno brings it home for big points for AERO, with Barbance making a wrong strategy call and having to do a 2-stop. Hanzo ultimately finishes 7th, with Geekin in 8th, Beast 9th, and Hops getting inside of the top 10 for CRE, but not exactly where he'd want to be, with Dunrod, Earth, Paulos, and Nimbus being the drivers outside of the points, 4 drivers outside of the points. All the retirements were Rising Moon, Rafi, Azuk, and Yuri, all retiring. Well, what a race that was. And I've got to know, who's your driver of the day? Come on.
I mean, that was just an incredible race, but I've got to give it to Gisela. Just the pace that he just had consistently. He may have slipped up at the end, but he was able to. He came in earlier than the rest of the drivers, and the fact that he was still able to manage the tyres. I know it was only a lap earlier, but that can make a whole lot of difference. So the fact that he was able to keep the pressure on the top 3 all that time, and you could see that the 2 drivers for AMS, both Sasoy and Trappy, could be working together. You could see that Jack and Sasoy were working together, but Gisela was there, a lone soldier, and he thoroughly deserved that podium.
I definitely do agree with you. For me, I'm going to say Zeno. Just for the way that, he gained from 14th to 5th. His pure racecraft and his... Yeah, he got it off of penalties in the end, but he was up in P5, remember, at some points. He wasn't... He let his teammate by as well early on in the race. Twice, by the way, in this race. He let his teammate by. And so, we've got to say, for letting your teammate pass twice and then picking up on penalties and staying close on older tyres, by the way, that he was also on 3 laps older than his teammate. Not too bad from the AERO driver. AERO really coming in clutch now for 2 races back to back. So yeah, Zeno is my driver of the day. But as it is time to have a look at the calendar for one final time here tonight. We've completed Austria round 5 of the season. Ultimately, next week we go to Abu Dhabi. Yes, we go to the UAE for round 6 of the season. But sadly, after that, we're going to be having our first break week of our Tier 1 calendar. As you guys know, last week we had a sort of break week because of the Euros for Tier 2 and 4s. They return this week. And they should be returning for pretty much quite a while because their break weeks, I think, are gone now. One of them at least. But yeah, we're going to Abu Dhabi next, and then we'll be taking a lovely break week, which I'll be sad about because we don't get to see this racing. But we will return for the Hungarian Grand Prix, and then of course to the great track of Silverstone. Then we go to China, Italy, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and finish off the season in Japan. Ultimately, as it is the end of the stream, it is time to say goodbye to everybody. I hope everybody's had an absolute great time watching the stream because generally it has been one of the best races of the season. It's been great commentating alongside you, Cots. Any last words to the stream?
Subscribe to me.
Brilliant.
Same answer every week. Same answer every week.
Yeah. We're gonna do this every week, 13 times over. We're gonna see this. I'm just gonna.
Don't forget Falls as well. I'll do it 26 times.
No, you won't, because you only get 10. Ultimately, please think about liking and subscribing to the channel. It really shows a lot of support to me and Cots. Also, please think about joining our Discord server down below. There is the link in the description. Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter. We're on there as well. I haven't got our link to our Instagram, but make sure to go and search Future Racing League of Teams on Instagram, and we should come up on there. We've posted a few times. It's one of our new things. I only opened it, I think, on Friday night. So make sure to go and follow us on there as well. Ultimately, that is all. I hope you all have had a great week. We'll be returning once again tomorrow for Tier 2. And then we'll be going to Fours once again as it returns on Sunday. I hope everybody has had a great night. And I will see you next week. Bye. And Sundays, but here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights.
Humans.